The big news story as well today, an alleged Chinese spy with links to Prince Andrew has been named as Yang Tengbo after a court order protecting his identity was lifted. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform, who will be on this show at 6 o'clock, had threatened to ask, well, give the name out in the Commons under parliamentary privilege. He didn't have to because the High Court released that. It's all kicking off. Robert Jobson, the Royal Editor. It's been a while, dear boy. How are you?
Very well, Jeremy.
Yeah, you've got that voice I've got on. I'm just going to say this. His choice of friends, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, is farcical, man. Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, now this guy. I mean, it's... you know, you read stories, he won't be welcome at Christmas, he's going to take a step back from the walk down to the church at Sandringham. I mean, talk about untenable. He's just got to go somewhere, hasn't he, Robert, seriously?
On this one, I mean, he's not the only one opposed to this guy, is he? I mean, we've got Cameron, we've got Theresa May, they've both been posing. I mean, he looks an interesting character who's, if his job was to infiltrate the establishment, he certainly did that. And, yeah, it's hugely embarrassing for the King again, and it just happens to be on Prince Andrew's door. We don't know exactly what was discussed. I'm not sure that Andrew's party to too much top secret information. I'm sure he's not, but the reality is it's just another embarrassment, and no wonder the King doesn't want him there for Christmas.
You'd sort of look at it and you'd go, if it was an orchestrated decision to try and look at weak links in the British establishment, my point is his track record ain't great, is it? And I threw something out earlier. Obviously, this guy's an alleged spy, Yang Tengbo, and obviously what I'm about to give as an example or a theory is mine. It's not factual, but, you know, he stopped being paid by the King, and I know because I lived a mile away. It costs £250,000 a year to keep Royal Lodge, where he insists on staying and not moving out. What will happen next? The people all across the country and all the newspapers will start saying, I wonder how much money he took. And it's just, you know, the monarchy's been through so much, but I don't know if anybody has the power to tell him to just go and settle in Scotland in a little hamlet on his own. But it's just embarrassment after embarrassment, and the monarchy doesn't need that, does it?
No, it doesn't, and it's difficult, though, because, you know, he's his brother, and he's not going to be able to go away, really, and the reality is he's got a 75-year lease on that Royal Lodge property, which means he's going to probably stay there. Where the reality is a lot of people, I'm sure, are digging into the money. I don't think it's that easy to actually discover where all the money's coming from. I'm sure he was left quite a lot of money by the late Queen, but it just seems to me that this particular, you know, whilst he is forever in these positions looking for money, you're going to be exposed to people who are going to take advantage. And, you know, and I think he's been described by Tom Tugendhat as an idiot or a useful idiot. I would just take away one of the words there and it wouldn't be idiot. It's not very useful, is it?
No, and that's the point. I suspect there's very little that Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, could tell Yang Tengbo, the alleged Chinese spy, but it's the fact that this is the brother of the King of England. You know, and if you feel you can infiltrate a man who is as pliable as him, whether he's got info or he hasn't, I guess that's a tick in any box, isn't it? Oh, yes, Governor, how have you been doing? Well, I'm having dinner with the Duke of York, for Christ's sake. Well, you know, that looks great.
It's the doors you can open, it's the other links you can have in connection. I mean, you know, he looks like a character out of a Johnny English movie, this guy. You know, if he hadn't been exposed as the spy, and it is an alleged spy, but it almost looks like one of the, you know, one of those situations. I mean, most people in business, most people in public life, MPs, lords, are pretty much on the lookout for situations like this, particularly with the Chinese. I mean, we go back 15 years, and the Cameron government under George Osborne's chancellorship were really sort of caught in the Chinese. But since in the last 15 years or so, it has been very different, and there's a different atmosphere. And so, you know, things have changed there. So I can understand a little bit how he got suckered into this, because that was what the government were pushing at that time.
It's really interesting. Ian Duncan Smith stood up this afternoon. He said, I mean, he's been ostracised by the Chinese authorities and is delighted to be so. He says this is essentially the tip of the iceberg in the UK, and you alluded to at the very beginning, which I agree. There are government ministers, and I'm sure there's lots of other people that this guy's been photographed with. But of course, Prince Andrew, it's a bit like Harry and Meghan in my mind, and we sort of smile cynically, but it just sticks, doesn't it? That stuff, the word I can't say, to him and to them the whole time. And whilst the monarchy is doing its best to modernise, get through the problems of the king having cancer treatment, the amazing Kate having cancer treatment, William taking on more, stamping as authority, it's just there's always 2 steps forward and 5 steps back when this lot are involved. And you know, it's said that he's voluntarily decided to miss Sandringham this Christmas. I mean, can you imagine what the reception would be like for him in the family? Maybe he just needs to do the decent thing now and accept there's no way back, Robert.
Well, there is no way back for him. I mean, he's going to be at Christmas. I think even his daughters are going to be with their in-laws, so it's just going to be him and Fergie by the sound of it. But look, you know, on this one, you know, I think a lot of people were getting involved with the Chinese 15 years ago, and this is when all these sort of things started to develop. But at the same time, you know, he seems to be the weak link. I think a guy wrote a book quite recently about all this nefarious activity with the Chinese. You know, said that he basically, as I say, is a useful idiot, and that's how the Chinese would have looked at him. And that is embarrassing for everybody with the monarchy, and it's very embarrassing for the king. I mean, I'm sure just doesn't need this sort of stuff, particularly when he's got his errant son across the waters and daughter-in-law, who just seem to add to the problems. And as soon as their money runs out, I wonder what that sort of access they'll start giving.
Well, I said it 5 years ago, and even you told me I was nuts. He'll be back over here with his ginger tail between his legs, and she'll be in California with 2 kids, and she'll try and screw him left, right and centre. Oh, Robert, it's always a pleasure, mate. Great book, by the way. If you can, he's had a great book on the monarchy, Robert Jobson, the main man.